So here's what you missed last week.
Your kids do not have to be grateful to you for just being a parent. It is so incredibly cruel to give authority to their dead father and then hold that above their head to guilt trip them and shame them. You would not believe my shock when I found out that it was Doormat Mom who initiated the estrangement. You can't wear that dress because it's too revealing and your brothers will be there. You upset me. Please apologize. Well, you upset me by telling me I upset you, so you apologize. If she's not going to be able to see her on her wedding day, she just won't see her on any day. You cannot claim to, love your daughter unconditionally if you are then punishing her for just setting a boundary. She's about to educate us on what trauma and abuse really is. Just because they aren't starving to death doesn't mean they haven't been neglected. Sorry, I don't love you anymore. And it's your fault, and I am the victim. And she didn't tell her kids they were being abused, so therefore it means she cannot be an abuser. Kids don't know trauma. My husband died. That was traumatic. Their father died. Picking up your daughter late from a birthday party when she was 16 could later in life lead to a drug addiction.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome to episode 2 of a deep dive into a book written by a mother who has the largest victim complex you will ever encounter. If you missed part 1, I highly recommend you go watch that because it has some very important context for what we are about to discuss. We ended with saying that children's trauma is not real and they are in fact just ungrateful little bastards.
And a grateful little bastard.
Which is where we are going to be starting today. That is her famous line. She made a TikTok about a year and a half ago, one of her first ever TikToks, where she called her estranged daughter an ungrateful little bastard and estranged children in general ungrateful little bastards. And then recently she made a TikTok being like, I never said that, and then played the clip where she said it, which was a choice.
No, I never called my own estranged adult child an ungrateful little bastard in that first video or any other video after that. And if you think I did, I encourage you to go back and watch it again. Or you can just look to the next screen. I posted it there too. Were you a really good parent who did the best they could, and yet your child has decided to be an ungrateful little bastard as an adult?
That is what we're going to be diving into today. But first, I would love to ask, if you do enjoy this video, please do not forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you aren't already, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the third installment that will be coming next week. I've been working on these videos for several months now, and I have been documenting that entire process over on Patreon. So if you are interested in seeing this process, I have a collection over there that starts with the initial 45-page document I wrote documenting all my initial thoughts, as well as multiple script drafts, things that have been cut, draft videos, outtakes, etc. All of that is available on Patreon. You can get it as a collection. If you use the code @LONGLAST, you will get it 20% off. And then I am also offering 20% off your first month on any tier on Patreon as well if you use the code DoormatMom, all caps, just to celebrate finally getting this out there. If you can't, I understand. Thank you for watching. That is support in itself, and I really do appreciate it, and I really hope that you enjoy these videos. Now that I have said all that and gotten it out of the way, let's dive into the video and all the ways in which adult children are ungrateful little bastards.
And a grateful little bastard, and a grateful little bastard.
I'm gonna start this off by sharing a couple of sentences that she wrote. She said, "Conceit and callousness draw a direct line to conviction and chaos when children fail to honor their parents. And the insult is even more arresting when these adult children remain indebted and living under the same roofs as the parents whom they don't see the need to honor." There's this constant assumption that she makes that not being bad means being good. And that just isn't true. That's not how this works. There is a neutral, like, just because you aren't terrible doesn't necessarily mean that you are good. I cannot believe this has to be spelt out again, But you are not owed just for providing for your children. You are not owed just for like giving your children like food and shelter and clothes and all the necessities. That is a basic fundamental thing that you are required to provide for your children. You are not owed for that. They do not have to honor you, whatever that even fucking means. Yes, when they're adults, it would be nice for them to be able to go out into the world and like live on their own and provide for themselves and be like independent adults and not need to come to you for, you know, support in such ways. That is not always a possibility though, right? Especially with today's economy and the global cost of living crisis that is like absolutely crushing. I think that good parents, if they are able, want to help their kids if they need help, right? Good parents will let their adult kids live in their houses and help them get back on their feet. Good parents will like help their children when they need help, no matter how old they are. I'm not saying that you have to like let your kids live in your house while you run around and do everything for them and they just, you know, they don't contribute to the house in any way, like they don't do any of the tidying, any of the cooking. Everyone has a responsibility and everyone does their part. The same is true for children and adults alike. And although that may look different depending on how old they are and their ability to do so, I think good parents will accommodate for their children. If you have built a relationship that is truly based around like respect, and that means mutual respect, they respect you, you respect them, and you view them as like a person and not someone you have authority over, then you will be able to come to a position in which you are happy cohabitating and you are able to help them get back on their feet, and they are also wanting to like contribute around the house, right? Like you can figure something out. You just have to have a conversation and treat them like an adult and work out what is going to work best for you. That isn't you holding above their head being like, this is my house, my rules. They are not indebted to you for you just providing for them and helping them get back on their feet and helping them find their way. That is your job. You are their mother. They do not owe you for that. She goes on to say, the notion that adult kids don't owe good parents anything because they didn't ask to be born is such a crock. Yes, they do. If the gift of birth alone doesn't oblige them, certainly the love and sacrifice extolled by good parents should. If I was not born, I would not be sad about it because I wouldn't exist to feel sad. So what exactly do I have to be thankful for? The act of just me being brought into existence and given life is not something I owe you gratitude for, because yeah, that did happen against my will. I did not ask to be born. If I wasn't born, I wouldn't be upset about it. I have been given the life that you, as my parent, gives me. And if that life is one where I am mistreated, why would I be grateful for that? Why would someone be grateful to be brought into a life of misery? You can be grateful for like, you know, being like, wow, my life is great. Thank you for providing me a fantastic, wonderful, lovely life that I love living. But it's not like being grateful for the act of being born. It's being grateful for the things that happened in your life. And if you are not providing those good things, if their life isn't good, why would they thank you for that? You can't just pop out a baby and be like, you're welcome, and then like, that's it. That's not how this works. Life is so much more than just being alive. It's like you talk about survival versus living, right? Like if you are just giving them the bare minimum, you are keeping them alive, but you're not giving them a life to be grateful for. Yeah, they don't owe you gratitude for just existing. That's not a gift in itself. It's all about perspective, and life's what you make it. So let's make it rock. You chose to be a mother. You chose to make the sacrifices that come along with that. That is a choice you have made on behalf of someone else. And if you're going to be making a decision on behalf of someone else, you've got to do a good job of it, right? You've got to like actually do what is required of you. A good parent does not enter parenthood thinking, I am going to get so much out of these kids. A good parent does not expect anything in return for loving their children. A good parent does not expect anything in return for providing for their children, because that is just what a parent is. And they acknowledge and accept that that is a decision that they made. And they made it knowing that it's not a transaction. It is something that you do. But not according to Doormat Mom. According to Doormat Mom, parent-child relationships are all about owing each other. All relationships in general are about owing each other. And as a parent, you get to count up all the things that you did when your kid was a kid, and you get to hold that above their heads and be like, hey, look at these things I did for you when you were a child, so now you have to do things for me, and just tally them up and use it forever to tell your children how much they owe you, no matter how much time has passed. That is what parenting is to Doormat Mom. She says, there is security in owing, and there always will be. It should never be looked at as forced enslavement, but as virtuous involvement. Holding things above the heads of others is not security. It's manipulation. You should do things for people, especially your children, because you love them and you want them to be happy, not because you're thinking about what you can get in return for doing that thing. You don't do things for people to get something back from them. You do things for people because you care about them, because it is a good thing to do, because you want them to be happy, especially when it comes to your children. This is a beautiful thing of life. Doing things for one another, kindness, love, like that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And to taint that with owing is like, it's just so depressing to me. There are so few instances in life in which you are like truly owed. There are things in which, yes, I will absolutely give you, like, you absolutely deserve things, but it doesn't mean you are owed those things. And I do think that there is a fundamental difference between those two things. You can feel like you deserve something and be upset when you aren't given that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you were owed that thing. You are owed like payment from an employer, obviously, because that's like an agreement that you have. It's like a contractual thing. You are working to be paid. You are owed by them for that. You are not owed by someone for doing them a favor. You just do favors because you love them. If that isn't returned, then maybe you might see that as like disrespectful or like, you know, you've been taken advantage of. But you weren't owed a favor in return. It just would have been nice to receive a favor in return. And that doesn't apply to your children, because you were doing for your children a service that is required of you. You should attend graduation because you know it's important to them and because you are proud of them and it makes you happy to see how much they have achieved. Not because you want to add it to a list that you are writing out to hold against them later and be like, look at all these things I attended, so now you're not allowed to put me in a nursing home because I did all of this for you, so how dare you, you're not allowed to do that. If you love them with no strings attached, if you love them because you love them and that is it, then that will be returned to you. However, if you love them with conditions, they are also going to love you with conditions as well. She said, if owing you is a hardship for your adult child, that's not love, it's ungrateful. Owing in general is not love. It's obligation. So this is immediately a null point. It doesn't work because there is nothing about love when it comes to obligation. Obligation is not love. It's obligation. They don't cross over at all. And if you do equate love with obligation, I am so sorry that you were never shown true love. I am so sorry that your world has never been colored by a true and full, all-encompassing, unconditional love. I'm so sorry you've never had that in your life. I'm so sorry that you've spent your life thinking that debt and transaction and owing is what love is. Because it's not. And maybe if you open your eyes and you listened to what people are saying and you read some of the comments that you get on your posts, you would be more aware of that. Maybe you would listen and realize things and your life could improve so much and your relationships could improve so much. But you aren't willing to do that. It's this frustrating thing when it comes to people of this age, right? Because as soon as she has to confront the fact that owing and obligation are not love, that means she has to reflect on her entire life and every relationship that she's had. It means she has to reflect on her parents and the relationship she has with her parents and all the other relationships she's had in her life. And she has to confront and acknowledge that there was no actual true love there. It was just obligation and owing and fear. And that's a lot to do, right? When you're in your later half of life, opening a big can of trauma worms is never going to be a fun time because there is way too much there to work through. And so many of these people do just think it's easier to just like keep it closed forever, that there's no point in opening it now because like, what's it going to do? It's too much to deal with. Let's just keep it in a closet forever. And like, that's your prerogative. If that's what you want to do, then, you know, you do that. I understand that it's difficult. I'm not saying that I think that is what you should do, but I am saying I understand when they do that. However, when you do that, you have to acknowledge the consequences of that as well. If you are not allowing yourself to learn from your past and your mistakes and also your own trauma, then you are doomed to repeat that. If you are going to ignore what people are saying because it is too painful for you to reflect on, you just have to acknowledge and accept that the consequences of that are that people are going to walk away. People are going to stop tolerating your bullshit. Like, this is just a consequence of that. And that ties very nicely into her next statement, which is, adult children don't have a right to ask their parents to change or conform to their way of thinking. And I actually think that they do. I do think that adult children have the right to ask their parents to change. I just also think that parents have the right to say no, right? Everyone has the right to ask things. Everyone has the right to speak their minds and share their opinions. You don't have to agree. And if you don't agree and they get mad at you, that's also their right. I feel like people use the word like right in such a way where that's just not how it works. Yes, they have the right to tell you that you're being bigoted or that you're saying things that are harmful or whatever. And you can either accept that and talk about it and learn from it, or you can say, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to learn from that. I don't want to hear about it, and accept the consequences of that, which is that they aren't willing to further a like relationship or conversational topic or whatever because of your opinion on that and your unwillingness to talk about it, right? That is a consequence of refusing to converse and discuss things and grow. Like, you can't expect your relationship to grow if you yourself are unwilling to grow. You can learn so much just by having conversations and listening and being willing to have those conversations and being willing to listen. And your kid coming to you and like trying to inform you about something, educate you about something, or like tell you how they feel or what they think is not them like forcing a worldview on you and being like, you have to change. It's them telling you that what they disagree with about what you're doing, how you are impacting them in a negative way, and they are giving you the opportunity to have a conversation and work through that and like grow from that, both as an individual and also together. And if you are unwilling to even have a conversation and even talk about like how they feel or why they feel that way because you're standing there like, no, I'm not going to change, I'm not going to listen, obviously they're going to like walk away or make their relationship with you smaller because you are showing that you are unwilling to like actually talk about things and learn more about each other and like understand each other and the world around you more. It makes the relationship so shallow when you aren't willing to like have these conversations and like learn and grow from each other. Especially when it comes to this conversation of owing, right? Like standing here and being like, I don't owe my children anything. I don't owe them change and growth. I don't owe them my ear. I don't owe them conversation. I don't owe them anything. I'm gonna stand here and be who I am, and I'm not gonna like learn or grow or have these conversations or anything, and they have to deal with it. Like, why would they stand and listen to you and make like change themselves to please you if you aren't even willing to talk about it? That's not owing. That is you saying that they permanently owe you and you owe them absolutely nothing in return. Why would they listen to you if you refuse to listen to them? You're at a stalemate. You're never going to get anywhere because you refuse to be an adult and have a conversation. It's so unbelievably frustrating because like you can't just be like, I looked after you and kept you alive for 18 years, so now you owe me forever. The maths isn't mathing. You kept them alive for 18 years, and so now they permanently owe you for the next like 50. You don't have to do anything more. You don't have to have conversations. You don't have to take accountability. You don't have to do anything for them ever again, because you made sure they didn't die. Like, and she literally implies this, right? She like almost effectively exactly says this when she says it didn't matter that she paid all their bills for 18 years because, again, they didn't ask to be born. If you want to talk about owing each other and like how your children owe you for everything you've done for them, you have to at least start when it gets to adulthood. You cannot count all the things you did for them that were just, you know, being a parent as them owing you, because they lived under your authority. They lived under your control. You got to pretty much like decide most of their lives. They answered to you. There were so many things probably that they wanted to do and weren't able to because they were living under like your authority. Like, they don't owe you for anything that happened during that time. Again, I don't think people typically owe each other very much outside of like, you know, respect and all of that. I think that a lot of the time, like I say, like you can deserve things. I think that sometimes, you know, people should do these kind things for you. And I think that that's the good and right thing to do, but I don't necessarily think that it's owing. But I don't think as a parent, you can start counting what you deserve from your children until you are like more on equal, until they are adults as well, in which like your actions don't actually impact them. Like when they are growing up, when they are kids, your actions always impact them. When they are adults and they have moved out, your actions stop impacting them so directly. So at that point, you can talk about like, you know, doing things for each other. And you still shouldn't tally it up and count it up and be like, I did this for you, so now you have to do something for me, because that's just a fucked up way to go about living life in general. But you definitely cannot count what you do for your children while they are children as anything they ever have to give back to you for. It's such a massive display of her love of power and needing to have that sense of power over her children and always needing to have something to like hold above them, and her need to like constantly have a card to pull to play the victim. She always needs to have a way to make herself into the victim, and it makes it impossible to have an adult relationship with her. And that's exactly how she's ended up in this position in the first place. It's just so laughable how she sits here and talks about how much she is owed by her children without ever actually telling us anything that she's done that makes her worthy of receiving any of it. Like, the only thing she's really provided us with are very just like bare minimum basic mom stuff. She truly does think she is owed everything. She even directly says that she believes she is owed an invite to a wedding. Like, that is something that is owed to her as a mother.
You owe them for the love they gave you, the caring they showed you, and the protection that they afforded you. You owe them, as the good parents that they were, a seat at your wedding.
And it is this mile-long list that she keeps that she believes is what makes being a parent and giving her love worthwhile. And that is a direct quote.
And a grateful little bastard.
The push me pull me that I'd become in order to simply have a relationship with daughter had been long overdue to end. No sporadic blip of appreciation, consideration, or affection from her made it worth my while anymore. I cannot imagine living in a world in which love feels like a chore, in which loving your child is a task and something that you require a return for. Like, it is something that uses so much energy, and like, why would you even bother with loving someone if you don't get anything back for that? As though the act of loving someone in itself is not enough. Like, the act of loving is payment in itself, in my opinion. There is like nothing more beautiful and lovely than like loving someone. My favorite thing in the entire world is loving things. Look at the stuff behind me, right? These are things that I fucking love, and it is the greatest joy of my life to fucking love these things. That is the payment, is that I love them, and I love to love things, and it's absolutely beyond me to feel like you need payment for loving, as opposed to the ability to love being the payment itself. If you find love exhausting, if you find love to be something that doesn't come easily to you, and it is something you have to force yourself to feel and force yourself to give, why would you have kids? Why would you have 4 kids? This is what I don't understand, is that like, if love is not something that you absolutely love to give, what are you doing? I just don't get it. I don't understand how people can like live their lives and feel like doing things for others and like loving people and being kind is something that like is, you know, needs to be returned. Like you are owed a debt for doing that. Like you should just want to live your life like that. I don't get it. I just don't understand how you could become a mother and go into parenthood if you aren't someone who just like loves to love. That's the core of the job. That is what it should be about. And if that is not what you are going into it for, if you are not going into parenthood for the pure joy of loving someone, you shouldn't be going into parenthood at all. And if you are aware that loving someone is not enough of a payment for you, don't become a parent. Especially don't have 4 kids, because that's not fair on anyone. You are going to exhaust yourself by like forcing yourself to feel an emotion that doesn't come naturally to you and that, you know, feels exhausting and that you want to get back. And also you have to do so much else. And I'd love to sit here and be like, why did you become a parent? I think I actually already did ask that. But we all know the answer is society, right? Especially when it comes to these like Christian conservative type people where they do just view having children as like part of their duty to God. And so like they will have kids regardless of how they feel about it. Like regardless of anything, they think it is their job to have kids, and they also think the only thing you have to do is like provide for them, and then they will have to owe you forever. And that's what being a parent is, because that's what they've been taught. And it's just really fucked up and so sad, and we really need to change the way we view parenthood and kids in society, because like we don't view them as people. We don't view children as people. We don't view parenthood as like something that is like incredibly difficult and something that should be thought about. Being a parent should be something that you like think about really hard and prepare yourself for. It's not just an easy thing that everyone should just do. So many less people should be parents. There's so many people who are parents who absolutely should not be parents, and some of them write entire books about why. She goes on to talk about how so many good parents do so much for their kids out of love, such as sleeping on the forest floor to supervise school camp. And she says, the whole thing is profoundly disappointing, upsetting, and enraging. There is indescribable sadness too, as if everything these parents did was worthless. The notion that they could have quite possibly squandered their lives away for these thankless souls is devastating. And citing one adult child who replies to this sentiment by saying, we realize what you did for us were actually bribes, making none of it genuine to me. So naturally, Doormat Mom then goes on to talk about how horrible it is to assume that these acts of love were truly acts of bribery and manipulation, how we are tainting all these memories, how these adult kids are like spitting on their childhood and repainting these memories, these things that were made out of love and these sacrifices that were made for love, and we're turning it around and making it something ugly just to spit on them and the love that they gave us. But it's like, I understand that, yes, maybe at the time those things were done out of love. Maybe at the time you did that without thinking about it because you were like, I love my kids, so I want to do that for them. However, when you get to a point where then you are able to use that as a reason to why they now owe you, it nullifies that love. It immediately changes it to, yes, it is bribery. Yes, it is manipulation. Because if you are now asking for a return on that, it's a payment now. It wasn't something out of love. It was something you did so you could get something back. The thing you got back from sleeping on the floor at school camp was your kid being able to enjoy school camp. You got to see your kid smile. You got to see them have fun. You got to ensure that they were safe and that they were happy. That was your payment for that deed. You cannot then use it now to be like, I slept on the forest floor when you were at school, so now you have to do this for me. How dare you do this when I did this for you? Automatically, it's not an act of love anymore. It was an act of bribery, something that you could get back. That's not love. Owing an obligation is not love. My mom did all of this as well. My mom was very involved in a lot of the stuff I did as a kid. She ended up somehow accidentally becoming like one of the supervisors for all of like my Girl Guide camps and things. When I try to thank my mom for, you know, the things that I am grateful for from my growing up and like some of the things that she did that I realized that like, you know, other people didn't get, and I try to express gratitude for that, she tells me not to. She tells me that I don't owe her, that, you know, the joy she got out of doing that for me was all the payment that she required. That like watching me grow into the person that I am and be successful, that is the payment she got for being a parent and doing all those things for me. She would never ever accept a thank you from me for like her getting me food and like being a mother to me. She would never expect that of me. And if I attempt to thank her for it, she will tell me to not thank her for it. Even now, she does a lot of things for me. And I am an adult and I understand that she does not have to do the things she does for me now. So I thank her for it. And even still, she tells me like, you don't need to thank me for it. I will continue to do so anyway. But she views it as like, I'm just being a mom and I want to do these things for you and be a part of your life because I want to watch you succeed and I want to be a part of your success. And that is the thanks that she receives. And another example of that in my life is my auntie and uncle. They were strangers to me. I'd met them twice in my entire life, and then I moved in with them. At the end of 2019, I moved to London, and they offered me a place in their home. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. They let me move in with them, where I then spent all of lockdown, and then I moved out when I was finally able to. And they did not ask anything in return of me other than to, you know, help out around the house as like someone who lives in a house does. And that was all they asked of me. And even if I like, you know, express gratitude, they are always very much like, we've loved watching you grow and being a part of your success is like the best thing. Like that is the gratitude. And, you know, we have such a lovely relationship. And I know even now that if I needed somewhere to go, I could contact them and they would give me a place in their home again. Like I am safe and secure because there are people who are around me who are able to provide that for me and are happy to do so without expecting anything in return because the love is enough for them, right? Because that is what being a parent is. That is what, if you are able to provide that to someone that you love, the payment is just knowing that you have done something for them. And it's astounding to me that you can be a parent and not think that that is enough. It's just so sad to me that like doormat mom and these other estranged parents like her like do not have this experience of love and they don't know what it means or what it looks like. And that makes me so sad for them. And it makes me incredibly sad for their kids for never having like had that or seen that growing up as well. They're just effectively investments. Their parents are viewing and treating them like investments. Doormat mom talks about her daughter, her children, as though they are investments. They're not. They're people. They're your kids. And it's astounding to me that you can't just view them and treat them as such.
And a grateful little bastard.
One mom shared, I wasn't perfect, but I did everything that I could for them. I'm now on a fixed income. Because of this, none of them come around. I can't give them anything anymore. Seems like I should have never given them anything to begin with. That last statement, I think, really speaks to the whole overall issue, right? And that's that, you know, this mother, doormat mom, and all these other estranged parents like them, they view love as transactional. They think that buying them things and providing them with things is a substitute for like quality time, emotional, you know, support and like conversation and empathy. And it's not. It's not. If you no longer see your kids after you stop buying them things, after you stop giving them money, then it's because you built your relationship off of that. Right? Like if you notice a certain thing that happens that means your kids cut you off, it is because that is what you have built your entire relationship around. And I will say that this is also something that is listed on the list of things that qualify as neglect. You use gifts instead of emotional connection. Like your relationship revolves around what you can do for them, what you do for them, and not anything more than that. And if this is what is happening, that's because you've done that. If you stop giving your kids money and they stop talking to you, it's because that is the only way you have ever showed them love. If you've never built your relationship further than that, why would they stick around? If the only way you have ever told them that you love them is by buying them things, the second you stop buying them things, how that reads to them is, I don't love you anymore, because you never taught them anything else. You are responsible for teaching your children how to love. Right? That's how like this circle of abuse happens. Like the cycle of abuse happens. Like kids who come from abusive households will often end up in abusive relationships, either as the abuser or as the abused, because they watched what happens. They watched people say they love each other and then hurt each other, right? So then that's what they learn love is. And that was a bit of an extreme example, but that's why it's hard to like break that cycle, because the way you have experienced love looks like a very specific thing. And so when it doesn't look like that, you don't know that that's love, right? Like, you have to learn that further. If you've only ever shown your love through finances, as soon as you don't have that, you don't love them anymore, because that's the only way they know you love them. And if you didn't want that to be the case, you needed to do a better job loving them growing up. You set up your role as provider and authority figure, and then you never made an effort to change that. You never made an effort to do more than that, to provide for them emotionally, to do more than just being there, but like not being there. And so then when you aren't there in the way that you've always been there, they're not going to be there either. You can't just expect your kids to like grow around you and fix the relationship that you have with them without you making any effort to do it. Why would they change the relationship they have with you if you've never changed the relationship you have with them? I don't understand what you think is going to happen. I don't know what you want. I don't know how you expect this all to go. How do you expect them to love you in a way you've never loved them? Speaking of love being transactional, and specifically financially transactional, she goes on to talk about money after death, and specifically what you should do with your will. Should you give your estranged children anything after you die? She has quite a few thoughts on that. Let's find out what she has to say, shall we? The thought of giving what's left to adult children who have been nothing but ungrateful is unpalatable, especially when adult children insist the money or effort put in to provide for their family was nothing more than a bribe, means to control, or a substitution for love rather than simply a representation of that love. If you were buying them clothes, feeding them, housing them, doing all the things that a parent is required to do and claiming you were doing it because you love them, that is absolutely a substitution for love, because you do those things out of necessity, right? You don't do those things because you love your children. You do those things because you have to do them. So doing those and saying that like you were doing it out of love, that is a substitution for love, because no, no. Do you think that your doctor loves you because they performed a checkup? Do you think that the flight attendant loves you because they brought you your meal? Do you think the cashier at the grocery shop loves you because they scanned all your items and put them in a bag? No, you don't, obviously. They were just people doing their jobs. That was it. They did their job. They don't love you. They just did what they had to do. They did the service that was required of them. And you don't view that exchange of a necessity as love. You view that as like, that's just what they do. You have to do more than that to claim that you're doing things out of love. And then you can't then use that against them later, because once again, that nullifies the love in it. If you are doing things out of love, you cannot ask for anything in return. And so far, you've shown no examples of that really happening. So, not to mention that kids do not understand capitalism. They do not understand what you have to do to like provide for them, right? Especially when they are younger. They do not have this understanding of what goes on. So like, you can sit here and be like, I did so much. I worked so hard to put food on the table. I worked so hard to keep a roof over their heads. They don't know that. And they really shouldn't know that either, right? Like, a child should not know the stress of what it is to not be able to eat and to not have shelter and to not have like clothes and an education. Like, that is not something a child should know. And they shouldn't have to be grateful for having those things. That is what they are required to have, right? And I know that not everyone has those things, but that's fucked up. That's horrible. That's so upsetting. All children should have those things, and those who have those things do not have to be grateful for having those things. But the people who don't have those things deserve to be incredibly like upset about it. They deserve to have those things. They should have those things. It's like the like not being bad doesn't make you good. That's the thing here, is they don't have to be grateful for having the things that everyone should have. The people who don't have it should have them, right? Kids don't have the understanding of what you have to do to get those things, and they shouldn't have the understanding of that. That's way too much burden for a child to carry. A kid should not be responsible for the like financial struggles of a parent. A kid should not be made to feel guilty of like I work so hard to put food on the table. No kid should be aware of that. No kid should be feeling the weight of that. No kid should be made to feel a burden just for existing. All your kid knows is that you give them the bare minimum. All your kid knows is that you provide for them, and then you tell them you do it because you love them. And so that's going to be confusing. That is going to be upsetting. Your kid wants a relationship with you. Your kids need their emotional needs met as well as their physical needs met. They need more from you than you just providing for them and telling them that they owe you because you work hard. Like, that means nothing to them. They don't understand the concept, and they shouldn't understand the concept. Your will is a very personal decision. There is no right answer. I've heard many perspectives from good parents. Some are leaving nothing to their ungrateful adult kids, choosing to bequeath everything to those children or grandchildren who they feel deserve it. Some are actually donating what's left to a charity. None of what I gave of myself in life was good enough. Why should I leave anything of myself to these adult children in my death? Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with like skipping a generation and like giving your inheritance to your grandkids. That's what my grandma did. And I'm not just saying that because I benefited from it. And I also don't see a problem in like people who decide to give their money to like charity after they die. That's your call. You can do that if you want. I do, however, think that it is a dangerous game to play by splitting the money based off of like who does what for you. I think that like it is a fucked up thing to do, to have your will and everything you own and kind of be like, if you're nice to me, you'll get a cut of this once I die. And if you aren't, you won't get anything. Like, how does that not make you question the relationships your kids have with you, right? Like, 3 of your kids still speak to you. 3 of your kids are still on good terms with you. But here you are implying that, like, you're only gonna give the money to the people in your life, like, who stayed there. The only people who are gonna benefit from your, like, life after death are the kids who stuck around and looked after you. Then how do you know they're there because they love you and not because they're waiting for you to die? There's so many times where parents do create this almost like competition among their kids because they have a will and there's money in it, and they know that, you know, their kids want that money. I know people who, you know, when a family member has died, immediately, the first thing they did was go to the will. The first thing they did was like, they literally like went to court over the will and who got what and trying to sort that out. Like, they didn't even take time to grieve. It was all just about the inheritance money. And if you are existing like this and talking about how, you know, like, if you didn't love me in life, I'm not going to love you in death, and like effectively saying that, you know, they have to do specific things for you in life in order to get that, you will never know the truth of your relationship. You've created such a transactional relationship in which you don't even know where the love starts and ends, or if it's even there at all. But then again, with all this talk of like owing, I don't even know if she even fucking cares, right? Like, she gets what she wants out of it in the end. What does it fucking matter if they actually love her or not, as long as they serve her? And it's just really fucking sad. Like, to have no concept or understanding of selflessness or unconditional love in any way, and just having every single relationship be based upon what you can do for each other, including like up until death. Like, you don't know why your kids are there. You don't know if your kids even love you or care about you, or if they're just waiting for you to die to get the money from you. Like, you have no way of knowing that if this is the way you are going to be treating it. If this is the way you view your children, then this is probably the way they're going to be viewing you. It is really painful for good parents to revisit all that they did to raise their children into adulthood, only to get less kindness, less compassion, less understanding, less attention, and a lot less than other parents who are much less giving. You question, why the hell did I do it all? And what was it all for? Maybe those parents didn't go into parenthood for a reward. They just wanted to raise good adults. They just wanted someone to love. They didn't go into it with any expectations of getting anything out. This is where you question what more or less is, right? Like, if we've already established that so much of what she calls more is like buying them things and like, you know, taking them on holidays, or just, you know, taking them to friends' places, doing more extracurriculars, or like paying for their university degrees or whatever. Like, if that is doing more, then doing less means like not having as much financial availability, like not taking them on as many holidays, not buying them as many gifts. But Maybe they were there more emotionally. Maybe they had a better support network. Maybe they felt accepted and loved by their parents, that they felt they could trust them and love them and communicate with them. Because that overall is so much more valuable. That is worth so much more. So maybe they didn't do less. Maybe they did more. It was just not on a visible scale. You cannot compare what you do as a parent to what other people do as parents if you do not have the full story. If you are sitting here and saying that your kids owe you for everything you do and you're like keeping a tally of that, you didn't do a good job. You were not there emotionally. I can say that without any further information. And these parents who did less, maybe they were. And that way, they did more. All this leads me to one question, because obviously she says here, like, it wasn't worthwhile. It wasn't worthwhile. What the hell did I do it all for? What was the point in it? I could have given myself more. I could have done more for me. If I didn't waste my energy on my daughter, I could have been so much better off. I would have had more time. And so I ask, what would you have done differently if you knew this was going to be the result? Would you have let her fucking starve? Would you have just left her out in the rain? Would you have given her up for adoption? Like, what does the alternative look like here other than taking responsibility and learning and changing your attitude? If you want to blame her entirely because she's not made your love for her worthwhile, what would you have fucking done differently? And the fact that you can even sit here and say, like, it wasn't worthwhile and say that, you know, what was it all for, shows me immediately you do not love her unconditionally. You have never loved her unconditionally like you claim. I don't even know if you love her at all. You love the potential of what she could have done for you. And now that she won't do that for you, you don't love her anymore. And the fact that she is like unable to look at this for the manipulation that it is like, it's so astounding how much of this she can say and like truly not see the issue with it and not think that it's manipulative in any way. But I suppose it makes sense when you are someone who complains about society teaching children to stand up for themselves, when you think that the real problem with the world right now is that society is telling kids to stand up against their parents when they're being mistreated. So as a result, instead of confronting her bullshit and, thinking about what she's done and how she can grow and change, she's instead lashing it out and making it everyone else's problem. And, complaining about society.
And a grateful little bastard.
She says, society has taught adult children that the only ones who have the right to set boundaries or even require them are adult children. I honestly don't think you know what a boundary is, Doormat Mom. I don't think you have any idea. Any idea of what a boundary is. Not a single time have you ever actually mentioned a boundary that you have. Not once. I've not encountered a single boundary that has been set. You have, however, given an example of your daughter setting a boundary. The boundary she set was, you can't come to my wedding. That's a boundary. And you know what your response to her setting a boundary was? Never talking to her ever again. She set a boundary. You punished her for setting a boundary. So I don't really know how you think that a boundary was broken for you. Like, it's astounding that, like, her idea of a boundary, obviously the boundary she's referring to being crossed because it's, like, the only one she's, like, properly referenced, is her being told no. Her daughter said, you can't come to my wedding. And so she's like, you crossed my boundary. How dare you? Kids are always crossing boundaries. They tell us no when we are owed a yes. You aren't owed anything. You desire the invite. You don't require it. Yeah? Like, you are not owed that. The boundary is no. The no is always stronger than the yes. To switch this around, because maybe it'll help being put in the opposite perspective. Maybe the only way you can comprehend a boundary is if it is your own, because it seems like it. So let's switch it around. Your daughter is getting married in Australia. You are unable to make it. You cannot afford the flights. You are sick. Something has happened. You cannot go to that wedding, or you do not want to go. And so your daughter says, you have to come to my wedding. You have to be there. I don't give a fuck why you don't want to or why you can't. That doesn't matter. You have to go, or I'm never speaking to you again. She can't fucking do that. That's breaking a boundary. You said no. She has to respect that you said no. She could be upset about it, sure, but she has to respect that boundary. She can't force you to go, right? And like, you can be upset that you weren't invited to the wedding, but that isn't her crossing a boundary. That was you being upset that you couldn't cross her boundary. I think my favorite thing that she wrote about society and its terrible influence is when she was talking about how wokeism is ruining children. She was talking about the internet and how, you know, she posts all over the internet. She's got a pretty big social media following. Lots of people are always up in her business. And she was talking about how all of the negative comments are trolls. All of them. The tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands even, of negative comments she gets. All internet trolls. They're all just ungrateful adult children who are taking their bullshit out on her, and that, you know, they don't know what they're talking about. They're all just like looking to get a rise. And they're all trolls and they have nothing meaningful to say. None of them. The tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of them have nothing worth her while to say. However, the small handful of people who come in and tell her she's right and that she's great and she deserves better, all of them, every single one of them is correct and a good parent. They're all right. The minority of people who she encounters on the internet, they're all perfect and correct. The majority, just look away, close your eyes, don't talk to them. They've been affected by today's woke society. And so, like, you shouldn't even look at them. They don't know what they're talking about. It doesn't matter how many there are. Why would you ever listen to anyone who disagrees with you? This is the whole problem. This is how you got here. You don't listen. You need to listen. You need to learn. You need to grow. You can't just be like, society is the problem and I am correct and everyone who disagrees with me has been brainwashed by the woke society. You've been brainwashed by conservative society. So, like, listen to people. People have things to say. You are not the all-knowing person. You are not correct about everything. No one is right about everything. Listen to what people are saying. If tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are telling you something, you probably should listen. You should probably hear them out instead of just being like trolls. But she won't. Why would she do that? She goes on to say about society and the family. Undoubtedly, the family is under attack, with society being the chief operator in this regard. Plenty of parents are, undoubtedly, sick of it. Hence the switch back to more conservative, traditional ways. Thank God. I just want to know, like, truly, what difference do you think this would make? Like, your kids and most of the kids of the parents in your Facebook group were raised in conservative Christian households with authoritarian parenting, which obviously, of course, is her favorite parenting style. She said, and I quote, "Is it any wonder parenting practices today are trending backwards to a more authoritarian approach? Good parents are fed up, tired of being told what to do by a corrupt society and adult kids that listen." Have you not pieced together that maybe it's these values that are the problem? Because considering most of the people in these estranged parent groups, most of the parents in your comments are parents who uphold these same values. How are you not piecing this together? The like more leftist liberal parents are not the ones who are being estranged. The people who are using authoritative or gentle parenting are not the ones who are ending up in your Facebook group. It is the conservative authoritarian parents who are ending up in your Facebook group. They are the ones who are on your side. So clearly, surely, you can piece together that maybe that's the fucking issue. Maybe she already knows that. Maybe she is completely aware of this fact, and that's why she's celebrating that society itself is moving more conservative, or that more people are doing this, because that means then it'll be more normalized again. People will speak up against it less, and she can go back to just getting away with being a shitty parent. But like, newsflash, just because it's normal doesn't mean it's okay. Just because your kids aren't speaking out against it doesn't mean they aren't feeling the pain. They're just holding it in, right? You are still causing the pain. They just have nowhere to put it. Your kid may stay in your life instead of being estranged from you, but they're going to be miserable. And the fact that you don't care and you would rather have your kid miserable, but like respecting you shows once again that you don't actually fucking love them. You love what they can do for you and how they make you feel. You love the way that they can fluff your ego. You love the things that they can do for you. You love saying that like, oh, look, I have a perfect child. You don't actually love them as a person because you aren't willing to better yourself to make them happy. It's this idea of like respect, right? Like she wants her kids to respect her and show her this respect, and speaking out against your parents and standing up for yourself, that's not being respectful, and she is owed respect from her kids. And one of the biggest issues with this is that her and so many of these people, especially these like conservative Christians, put fear and respect together. They view that as the same thing. They get love, fear, and respect, and they smush it into one thing. And I have to assume that comes from the idea of being God-fearing, right? Like I have to assume that that's where it comes from. But I have to say, fear is not respect. An obligation is not respect. It is not love. If you are an authoritarian parent, right, your child is respecting you and obeying you out of fear, not out of love, not out of respect. They are doing it because they're afraid of the repercussions of not doing it. That's not the same thing. And it's so frustrating and so upsetting that these people truly do think it's the same thing. And then get upset when their kids walk away because they've been mistreated. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if you fucking know this. People don't like to be afraid. People don't like to be afraid. And once they learn that they don't have to be afraid, that love does not equal fear, they're going to leave behind relationships where love means fear. If you have made it so they don't like do what you want them to, there is a punishment for it. They're going to do the things you want them to do, but they're not doing it out of love. They're doing it because they are afraid. And it's fucked up that you just want your kids to be afraid. You don't care how they actually feel as long as they are doing what you want them to do. And that is what abusers do. That is what abusers do. It's you use fear to control them. You use fear to manipulate them. You want people to do whatever you want, and you have something to hold above them. And then you will give them love and be like, I'm doing this out of love. I'm doing this because I care about you. I'm doing this because I love you. I'm only yelling at you and punishing you because I love you. And I love what you do for me. So don't stop, or I will stop giving you the love. That's abusive.
And a grateful little bastard.
This idea of love and respect and fear, obviously, as I said, ties very much into Christianity and possibly other religions as well. I'm not entirely sure how other religions work so much because I'm not as exposed to them as I am to this. In regards to her morals being wrapped up in Christianity and her faith, she does reference the Bible a lot throughout this book. She actually starts off the book by saying, she's like, I'm Christian, so that is going to come up. However, I understand that not everyone is, and I don't want to push my faith on you. Just know that it's in there. It's there, but you don't have to like abide by it. That's on you. But I think it's really funny because she has multiple instances effectively just been like, if you don't love God, you are the problem with today's society. The problem with today's society is they don't love God enough. Everyone who doesn't love God is sick. Like, it's not aimed for people who don't believe in God. I don't know why she even thought to put that in at the beginning. This is very much aimed for conservative Christians and no one else, despite what she said. I do first want to make a bit of a statement on my views on religion and Christianity in specific, because there might be new people here and I feel like it is important to do. And that is to say that I have no problem with people who believe in God. I don't have a problem with you. If you like believe in God and you get some comfort out of that, good for you. If you find love and community and safety, joy, whatever in your faith, I love that for you. I'm happy for you. Keep doing what you're doing. I dislike religion as an institution. I dislike the way that it is used to shame people, and I dislike the way that it is used to fuel hatred, right? And there are so many people who use it in that way. I dislike the amount of people who portray God to be just this horrible abuser and then worship him for it, right? And that is specific for people such as Doormat Mom, who like wield God as a weapon. It's that thing of like, if you are terminally ill and you recover from that, you thank God for allowing you to recover instead of condemning him for making you sick in the first place. If your life is like an absolute shambles, you don't question why God has made your life in such shambles. You instead thank him for it not being any worse. And I just dislike that as a concept. I dislike the fact that like to question someone who is actively causing you harm like means that you will be punished. And so many of these people use God in that way, and they instill fear in their children by saying, you know, if you disobey God, you will go to hell. And so they have to obey and listen and fall in line, or else they're going to be eternally punished. I take great issue with that. That is such a manipulative, controlling tactic, and I do not think that that is okay in any way at all. The one that made me the most mad, the thing that she said that pissed me off more than anything when it comes to this section, is when she quoted a part of the Bible that just says, "Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord." How many times do you think she said this to her children? How many times do you think her kids questioned her or didn't want to do something or wanted to do something and were told they weren't allowed to, and made that known, and then were hit with God said you had to obey your parents or else. Like, you have to do what I said is what God wants. God wants you to listen to me. God said you have to listen to me. I'm your parent, right? And that in itself feels like playing God. I feel like it's so easy to take some of these like Bible passages and use it to like portray yourself as God. Like, this in itself very much just feels like parents are God, and I don't think you should be able to do that. But there is like this inherent fear that comes with that, right? Because you've told your kids that if they don't listen to God, they're going to hell. So if you then say that listening to you is what God wants and they have to do everything you say because otherwise God will be displeased, you're effectively saying like your kids have to obey you or else they're gonna go to hell forever. And that's just so fucked up. And once again, it's not respect, it's not love, it's fear. Your kids are doing what you ask them because they are afraid. You have made them afraid. You are raising your kids with fear as like a base level emotion. And I don't know why you would want that for your kids. I don't know why this is something you enjoy doing to your kids. You should not want your kids to be afraid. And I have to ask a bigger question here as well of like, if you, doormat mom, can acknowledge, as you did earlier on, and we covered in the last video, that there is abuse, right? There are parents who do horrible, horrible things. There are children who are asked by their parents to do some absolutely deplorable things. They could also say this. They could also say, end quote, "Obey your parents in all things." It says it right there. You said it right there. And you acknowledge there are some things no one should ever ask of another person, some things that parents should absolutely not do to their children or ask their children to do. But you also use a quote here that directly says children should obey all things their parents say. You acknowledge there's a line. But why are you the one who gets to draw it? Why are you the one who decides where that line is? Why do your children have to follow everything that you say? Because God says that parents should be listened to in all things, but other parents take it too far. There are other parents who do things that their children shouldn't listen to. Why are you the one who gets to decide what that is? When you are controlling your children and telling them they must obey you, the one thing you dread more than anything else in the world is your kids then moving out into a wider world and learning more and, you know, realizing that they should have autonomy and that love does not mean fear. And this is a scary thing for these parents, right? They don't want to lose this control of their kids. They don't want their kids to know that they are being mistreated or that they have any autonomy because, you know, they have to do what their parents say. It's what God wants. It's God's will. And so to that, she says, keep your kids close or the devil will steal them away. And this, I think, is the perfect time to remind you that isolation is one of the key signals of abuse. If you are isolating someone, you are abusing them. If you are not allowing them to have outside relationships, you are abusing them because you not wanting them to understand the way you treat them, you are hiding something, right? Something that abusers do is they turn you against other people. They make you think that other people are against you. It could be something like they are just saying that I'm mistreating you because they don't like to see us happy. They're just jealous. And then when it comes to this, like in a Christian sort of viewpoint, you can bring the devil into it of a like, They're just saying this because they hate to see you happy, and the devil hates love. They obviously don't want us to be happy, and they don't want us to have this connection because they're working for the devil. The devil has gotten to them. And that adds a whole layer of manipulation, because not only are you, saying that this person is lying to them and like manipulating them, but you're also adding in the factor of like, and if you believe them and you agree with them, then you're gonna go to hell because they're working with the devil. Like it's such an easy manipulation tactic. Being able to like wield that over them and use it to control them is it's just so fucked up. It's such a card of like being able to gain control for every bad action because someone has told them to call you out. You can be like, no, I'm right and they're working with the devil. And I feel that may stop working at a certain point, but when they're young enough, I'm sure that has an effect for quite some time. Abusers don't want to lose control over their victims. Abusers don't want their victims to learn anything outside of what they are being told within the relationship, because that threatens the loss of control, that threatens like losing them. And so being able to wield this weapon and like effectively be like, well, if you leave, you're going to hell, it is a very good manipulation tactic to get them to stay and to accept the abuse that you were giving them. And it is very easy to convince them that it's not abuse and you're just doing it for their best interest. You are doing what God wants, because look, God says to obey your parents in all things. And it's so horrible and so upsetting. That's the thing with Christianity too, right? Like, especially in the way that people like Doormat Mom wield it, is that it provides a get out of jail free card. Anything that they don't want to take accountability for, that even is within their control, they can blame on the devil. They can fuck up their relationship with their kids, and when their kids walk away, they can just say, well, it wasn't my fault, the devil took them. And then they don't have to acknowledge their own actions because they've got someone else to blame and they don't have to do anything about it. And then they can just sit there and not do anything because the devil took them away, but God will bring them back. If it's meant to be, God will bring them back. So they don't even have to sit there. They don't have to take accountability. They don't have to do anything. If it's meant to be, God will fix it. And she said, have faith that the highest authority is on the side of peace, and that the relationship. Then watch how he comforts you while delivering your adult daughter the perfect come to Jesus moment that's been long overdue. Which is so frustrating. So basically, she walks away. She blames the devil for taking her daughter from her. And then she sits and doesn't take accountability. She does nothing and is just like, God will fix it. God will fix it. He's on my side. He wants me to be happy. He wants us to be good and on peaceful terms. And so if it's meant to be, God will fix it. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to think. I don't have to grow. I don't have to change. I don't have to take accountability. I don't have to do anything. I'll just sit and wait for God to do what he does. And then when your daughter sits there and grows and learns and heals and makes the decision finally that maybe she wants you back in her life and she'll come to you, it's thank God. God is great. God brought my daughter back to me. Not acknowledging that your daughter has done so much growth and reflection, not that your daughter has made this active choice that was probably incredibly difficult for her, that is possibly a result of the manipulation cycle that you brought her up with, because she still, no matter what, craves the love that you constantly were dangling in front of her face. Like, that is not an act of God. That is the manipulation cycle that you brought her up in. Or it's just the desire to have more. It is your daughter being the bigger person. And if you have not shown any growth or change or taken any accountability between when you walked away and when your daughter comes back and tries again, it's not going to last long. And next time she's going to call it and she's not going to come back. It's so unfair and fucked up and depressing to credit God for all of the work that your daughter did just because you refused to do any of your own. If your daughter comes back to you, it's because she has done a lot of work and a lot of thinking and overcome a lot while you've been sitting there doing nothing. And it is not an act of fucking God. But hey, she still prays for her daughter though, and that's what's most important. She still prays for her daughter because she is a fantastic mother. Obviously, we should all applaud her for that. And that is what we will be diving into next week. We will be talking about all the ways that she is still a great mother and why and how she loves her daughter so much, even still. And then all the ways that she and other parents are the true victims in estrangement. She is the victim here, not her daughter. And the desires she has for the future and what she wants for their relationship in the future, which is all, you know, really super fun stuff. So if you don't want to miss that, then please do subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you don't miss it. It should be up within about a week, and I would love to see you there. I hope that you have enjoyed part 2. Let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to hear them. A huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Rain Remaining, Mossy Moose, Noah, Bingo Bango Who Ate My Mango, Kiaram, Bug Loves Cats, Kaylee, Kojo, The Beebs, Tess, Alicia, Bree, Chastity, Beckett, Prismatic PT, Sushi Kawaii, Phil the Duck, River, Queen Glimmer, Ella, Mr. Noodle, Radsack, Knitting Menace, Chris, Ellie, Ikazel, and Alexis. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.